Good morning, and welcome to this special one-year anniversary. In case you're wondering, no, I'm not a Sanderson Jones tribute act. I'm Tony, the supply host from Sunday Assembly, Manchester. We've been doing this for 1 year now, just about one calendar year, and I vowed that I wasn't going to have a shave until we got to the 1 year anniversary. So while we've got a lovely piece of music in a minute, and while it's played, I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to have a shave. But welcome to Sunday Assembly, a joint Sunday Assembly with different ones from around the country, hosted by London and presented by Sunday Assembly Manchester, but with lots of wonderful guests coming up as well. And we're doing it on a Zoom platform. Until a year ago, to me, Zoom was a rocket-shaped ice lolly, and a platform was either a place where you caught a train or those stupid shoes that Elton John used to wear in the 1970s. But we're going to kick off today with a wonderful piece of music by Sunday Assembly Manchester's regular musician. Please give a massive welcome to the fantastic Mr. Lynn Richardson.
Oh, hello, everyone. So I'm going to begin with a Manchester classic and therefore a world classic. This is Sit Down by James. I always wanted to do this at real Sunday assemblies, but I couldn't because it was called Sit Down and we wanted everyone to stand up and it was mixed messages. So there should be some lyrics up on screen if you want to join in, and we're away with Sit Down. I sing myself to sleep a song from the darkest hour, secrets I can keep inside of the day, swing from high to deep, extremes of sweet and sour, hope that hope exists, I hope, I pray, drawn by the undertow, my life is out of control, I believe this wave will bear my weight, so let it flow. Oh, sit down, oh, sit down, oh, sit down next to me. Sit down, 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 down for the assembly. Now I'm relieved to hear you've been to some far out places. It's hard to carry on when you feel all alone. Now I've swung back round again and it's worse than it was before. Oh, if I hadn't seen such riches, I could live with being poor. Oh, sit down, oh, sit down, oh, sit down next to me. Oh, sit down, 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 down for the assembly. Those from London, Sheffield and Brighton, sit down next to me. Those from Manchester and Edinburgh, sit down next to me. Those who are also hungover, sit down next to me. Friends and strangers from every country, lands, and to John O'Groats. Oh, sit down, oh, sit down, oh, sit down next to me. Sit down, 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 down for the assembly. Oh, sit down, oh, sit down, oh, sit down next to me. Oh, sit down, 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 down for the assembly. One more. Oh, sit down, oh, sit down, oh, sit down next to me. Oh, sit down, 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 down for the assembly.
so much. Give it up there for Lynn Richardson, absolutely fantastic. And Lynn's going to do another song for us now. But while Lynn's doing us this song, we've actually got we've actually got a little slideshow for you to look at. Lynn, would you like to introduce the song? And whenever you're ready.
Yes, this is Friday I'm in Love by The Cure with a few small alterations. I don't care if Wednesday's blue, Thursday's grey and Friday too. Saturday, I don't care about you, it's Sunday and I'm in love. Wednesday, you can't fall apart. Thursday, Friday, break my heart. Oh, Saturday doesn't even start, it's Sunday and I'm in love. Saturday waits, and Sunday always comes too late, but Friday never hesitates. I don't care if Wednesday's black, Thursday, Friday, heart attack. Saturday, never looking back, it's Sunday and I'm in love. Wednesday, you can hold your head. Thursday, Friday, stay in bed. Oh, Saturday, watch the walls instead. It's Sunday and I'm in love. Saturday, wait, because Sunday always comes too late, but Friday never hesitates. Dressed up to the eyes, it's such a wonderful surprise to see your shoes and your spirits rise. Throwing out of your frown, just smile at the sound. The sleek as a shriek spinning round and round. Always take a big bite, such a gorgeous sight to see you eat in the middle of the night. You can never get enough of this stuff. It's Sunday, I'm in love. Ooh. And breathe. And I don't care if Wednesday's blue, Thursday's grey and Friday too. Oh, Saturday, I don't care about you. It's Sunday and I'm in love. Wednesday, you can fall apart. Thursday, Friday, break my heart. Oh, Saturday doesn't even start. It's Sunday, Sunday, I'm in love with you.
Thank you so much for the fabulous Lynn Richardson there. As you can see from that little PowerPoint show, we've had some absolutely incredible guests, all ages, all genders, all sexualities, so many different nationalities, and it's been an absolute blast to be bringing Sunday Assembly to you every single week for a calendar year. Absolutely unbelievable. And we're in a celebratory mood, so we would like to make sure that we continue that celebratory mood and engage some of you guys in that. So what I'd like people to start putting in the chat box, sorry, I just realised my camera's not on. You won't be able to see my lovely shaven face. What I'd like you all to start putting in the chat box is something positive that's happened in the last year, something positive that's come out of lockdown for all the kind of negatives that we've all had to cope with. And just to give you an example, very early on in lockdown, I decided I was going to have to walk to the supermarket instead of driving there because it was going to be the only exercise I was likely to get living in the urban sprawl of Salford, unlike some of you people in the very rural districts. And I hadn't realised that things were going to be so insane in the supermarket. So I turned up with a little backpack, intending to get enough shopping for a few days. And I'm sure you all remember it, about a year ago, there was a 45-minute queue. People were queuing around the block, and I had to stand in a queue where normally I'd be looking for cup final tickets. Anybody from Sheffield or Scotland, the cup final is something that happens once a year. If you're from Glasgow, you're okay, but maybe not Edinburgh. But anyway, I digress. So I had to queue up for 45 minutes to buy my eggs and my milk and my bread, but not my toilet rolls or pasta because it was all gone. And I thought, I'm not going to put up with this every 2 or 3 days. I'm going to have to get a lot more shopping than I intended. So as well as filling my backpack, I had about 5 really heavy shopping bags that I was carrying home. And as I say, I was walking. Got about 2/3 of the way home, absolutely dying of exhaustion. I put all my bags on the floor. I sat down on the floor with the sweat absolutely streaming off me. And 2 minutes later, a taxi pulled up. And the taxi driver said, "Have you got far to go, mate?" So I said, "A few minutes that way." He said, "Just jump in." And he helped me with the bags. When he arrived at my front door, I put my hand in my pocket to get my wallet. He said, "No, forget about it. I'm on the way home anyway." So that was one little experience that I had that showed that there is a positive side to all this. And this is what Sunday Assembly is all about, looking after other people. For anybody who's not been before, the philosophy of Sunday Assembly is 3 simple phrases: live better, help often, and wonder more. And that taxi driver certainly helped me. And, you know, we've all been helping each other often during these difficult times. In a couple of weeks, we're having an assembly all about autism. And I spoke to a guy called Peter Street, who's the poet that we're going to be having, just to have a catch up with him. And I asked him how his lockdown had been. And he said, "It's been absolutely fantastic. As an autistic person, I like life to be a little bit more calm, a little bit more relaxed. So the last year has been absolute bliss for me with all the kind of chaos disappearing." Another friend of mine who's very big on environmental issues said that he feels like the world has been reset, and that, you know, the clear skies for the first few months when there was no traffic on the road is a very positive thing. So come to me with all your positives, and let's start putting a few things in the chat box about your own experiences. So one of the great things has been, it's not ideal presenting an assembly like this. We'd much rather be together in the same room, but we've got people from all over the country, sometimes all over the world, who are able to congregate on a Sunday morning like this. And as well as getting to know some of my friends who I've been doing assembly with for a few years a little bit better with the kind of face-to-face Zoom calls, we've also met new people. And when I say met, there's people who I now feel really close to and really good friends with who have never actually physically stayed in the same room as. That's been one of the beauties of being able to use Zoom. And we've got one such person coming up, a lady who I kind of know very well now, but we've never actually met physically. We've only met over cyberspace. And it's National Poetry Day today. So it's wonderful to get a guest poet in, a very good friend of Sunday Assembly who's supported us all the way through this year. So please give a massive welcome, all the way from South Africa, not today, but originally. Please welcome Sarah Joy Taylor.
Hello. So yeah, I'm originally from South Africa, and I'm just going to read a few poems. I'm afraid they're not particularly celebratory, because that's not really my poetry style, and as much as I tried, didn't manage to get that quite right. But the first poem was inspired by working in South Africa for the state, and then also my friend's experiences working in the state. And it's about how doctors can be stretched really, really thin and the challenges of that. And I just thought it was appropriate, given that what we see in third world countries is now being seen across the world, with doctors being stretched thin everywhere from the pandemic. So this is called A Young Doctor's Plea to Her Mentor. How do I choose who stays alive? Please advise. I am 25. I am in desperately short supply, choosing who gets to live and who gets to die, choices that may be changed by something mundane, like words exchanged. My emotions influence every day who's fated to stay in life and death with searing agonal breaths. In 5 9-hour days, I'm to cover 7,000 Ks, hundreds of thousands under my care. How do I try to be just and fair while deciding who survives and who loses their lives? I cannot be sane, making choices I can't explain. Do we, nay do I, regard all as equal? Do I save the mother or the child from the father's car crash? How do I even start with something like that? Who do I stitch with due diligence, and who do I kill with premeditated negligence? What do I say to those who survive? We did all we can, no more could be done. Do you understand? This is not your fault. It is out of all our control. How do I protect patients from my shattered choice? What deception prevents survivors' guilt from setting hold and contains remorse and disgust to just the Savior's surgeon heart, yet untold? How do I choose? Who do I choose? How would you choose? How do I do that maths? Is this right? Speak to me. I've long since decided infants have no potential. Too many what ifs. Do you have no advice? You, my mentor, who has always been so damn wise, how do I choose between lives? Just say now what I must do. Choose for me between these two. I am just 25. Please advise. How do I choose who stays alive? So that's the first one. So yeah, that was just a little something about working in those situations. And I think just as we hear more and more about how stretched out the hospitals are, it kind of made me think back to that particular piece. Then this piece is something I've been working on recently, so it's not quite finished. And again, it's a topic, that I feel we need to talk more about. I had a discussion with one of the hosts here about whether it was family friendly. And in the end, I said, well, maybe some people regard it that it shouldn't be, but I feel that it really should be, and it should be something we talk about more. So it's called First Blood. What's a period? You scream across the playground. Schoolgirls hush. Friends dodge eye contact. She should know, someone mutters. Blood rushes your cheek. Period. You know the word. A space and time, a lesson, a full stop. But this is different. Menstruation, mother states. You do not use pet names, only medical terms, only when necessary. When it comes, you feign ignorance for days, convinced you cut yourself down there. Pray, bargain with God, rather be infertile than this shame. Eventually, braving humiliation, Mama, I'm menstruating. Tears and snot flow faster than any blood. She hugs you, commands, pull yourself together, be grateful it arrived at this convenient time, then goes to business, showing the cupboard of supplies and sends her hiccuping daughter away. Months pass before you use tampons, too afraid to ask how or Google, too distant from yourself to try. Your friends assume you have not broken into womanhood, too mortified to share this change as they had, proud of their burgundy blooming. So yeah, that's my little piece, because I feel like we need to talk about women's health a bit more, and that's, you know, the essential core of family life comes from those sorts of stories. And then this is a final topic called the orchid. Yeah, and this one's really special to me. The orchid. I have a wilted yellow thumb. My plants die, but this one I am determined shall survive. In honor of that moment, I killed you, looked into your mother's face and told her this time it was best. You cried confused, eyes dull with blindness, body wretched from disease. Your mother offered tender chicken breasts while tears crept into crevices with the softness of baby's breath. You would not eat. I begged within my silent places that you not leave this all to me, that you could give comfort, but in your perplexity you did not perceive pain. Perhaps that was better. You had only the slightest struggle, then abrupt silence of nothingness. While your mother's wordless wail scarred my soul, I knew there was no consoling. I left her to mourn your small ruined corpse. Days later, I found the orchid, left there in memory of you, a gift of thanks for my final painless offering. You, only child, feel no pain. I have learnt to bear it in unusual ways. Your mother screams curses at her womb. I tend a pure white orchid with the death dealer's wilted hands. So my mother says I should always explain that that's about a cat, but I always tend to say that with people I work with, that their pets are often their children and as important as any human child. So the emotion conveyed, whether it's about an animal or a human child, is still true. So those are the three.
Thank you, Sarah Joy. Before we let you go, two quick things. There's lots of tributes coming in, including some in South African that I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce. People asking whether they can get hold of your work anywhere or whether they can contact you.
I'm afraid not. I have been looking slowly at possibly doing a bit of publishing, but I mainly just write as a way of processing a lot of what I'm thinking. But eventually, maybe I'll get there.
Can I also just ask you on this anniversary why you came to Sunday Assembly Manchester and what you think you've got out of attending online, because you've been there most weeks, haven't you?
Yeah, unless I'm working. Well, I'm originally from a religious background, and for me, community is really important. And I used to gain that from my religion, but as I shifted away, um, I looked at alternative forms of it. So I'm a member of the Unitarian groups in South Africa, which are non-denominational and non-religious spiritual organizations. But in the UK, they tend to be rather Christian. And the closest I could find was Sunday Assembly. So for me, it's really important because it gives me a grounding and a community each week, which I just feel like community is kind of the essence of why we exist as humans. And the whole motto, or I'm not sure what we call it, live better, help often, etc., aligns with my personal worldview and beliefs. So I just felt comfortable here, and I've made new friends, which is really exciting when you've just, moved countries in the middle of a lockdown.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you over the last year, and thank you so much for sharing your poetry with us today. Sarah Joy,
Thank you, Tony.
thank you. Just looking down the chat boxes about some of the things that people found positive about the year. We've got litter picking, somebody met The Rock, I presume that's the wrestler, Agricola nights, you one on me, singing globally, learning to play the washboard, writing haikus, yes Andy, I know all about that. Somebody who's been growing plants and has moved to a plant-based diet and feels a lot more healthy because of it. Getting to know your neighbours, and somebody referred to a WhatsApp group on the street and still keeping in contact with your neighbours on WhatsApp, even if you couldn't physically see each other. Somebody's been involved in a community building project. Somebody's found lots of beautiful walks on their very own doorstep. Someone's written a play about addiction. And somebody's got involved in global meditation, which involves getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So there's a 5 o'clock in the morning now, isn't it? Right, used to be. So lots of very exciting things, small things, big things, but communal things, solo things. People are finding a way of getting through this, and Sunday Assembly for me has been a very important part of that. And Sarah Miguel, one of my friends from Manchester, mentioned that one of the things that she's found positive is being in a Live Better group as part of Sunday Assembly Manchester. I'm also a part of that group, and I found it very beneficial. I live on my own, and it's been an absolutely wonderful helping hand through that time. And the lady who set up the Live Better group is also, I'm the supply host for Sunday Assembly Manchester. I just do it when this next lady can't turn up. But I'm very excited to be hosting today because it means we can have her as our guest speaker and really give her a proper platform, to use that word again, and a proper chance to tell us what Sunday Assembly means to her and lots of things besides. Very great friend of mine. We've become very, very close during this 1 year of lockdown. She's inspirational. She's fantastic. She makes this look effortless, the thing that I make look really hard labour. And she's absolutely a wonderful human being and a fantastic member of our community. Please give a massive welcome for Louise Croombs.
Hello. Thank you, Tony. What an amazing, nice thing. I hope you're having a lovely time so far at the Mega Assembly. 1 year of lockdown. We've done it. Send help, please. I can't cope. I don't like my furniture. I don't know why I picked it. It's awful. I can't look at it anymore. I can't look at my family. I can't look at them anymore. I'm fed up now. I've started digging a tunnel out of my garden. I don't know where I'm going, but I've hidden it with a Rita Hayworth poster so no one's going to find my tunnel. It's just been really difficult recently, hasn't it? When lockdown first happened, I remember telling you how much I loved it because people rang you and they checked in on you and made sure that you were happy. Now nobody rings. I think they just assume you're depressed. And when we had the first lockdown, I used to play with the kids and have fun with them. And we threw a load of soft toys in the garden and pretended it was a zoo. Now I throw them in the garden and pretend it's a zoo. Carry on, it's all right. Mummy's just having a cup of tea. I'll let you in a minute. It's been incredibly stressful and difficult. And I remember the first time that we decided to go online at a Sunday Assembly Manchester, because a couple of weeks previously we had our last assembly in person around this time about a year ago. And I remember it really clearly because as an anxious person, I was worried about the pandemic. So I was very paranoid and I banned touching. I wouldn't let anyone touch each other. So everyone was doing secret high fives and I was going, hey, what's that? I was trying to work out from the microphone whether we were going to catch a virus from a microphone. That's the sort of detail we were having. And a poet who, I wouldn't shake anyone's hands. And a poet who was there tried to hug me. They chased me around the stage and they hugged me. I wish I'd have let them now because I didn't realise how long we wouldn't have touch for. And I remember the assembly because it was the last time that someone actually breathed directly into my mouth, which was an accident. They didn't do it on purpose. Oh, them days, I remember them now so fondly at the time. But no one knew that that was the last time that we were going to meet. And no one knew how bad this pandemic was going to be. People were leaving saying, see you next month, see you next month. No, there's no way we were going to see each other in person. So the lockdown came and we all decided to do our assembly online. And this time, it was on Google Meets. And we thought, we are a community, let's be a community. It doesn't matter what we do, some poetry, some talking, just some comfort for people. But we'll meet on Google Meets. And I have noticed that people are incredibly rigid about which platform they enjoy. So people were saying, oh, I only use Zoom Me. The backgrounds and the breakout rooms, oh, I'm Zoom. Other people were like, oh, well, at my works, I only use Microsoft Teams. I don't know how to use any other. It's like, all right, Windows 98, what are you talking about? But they're all the same. They're just cameras and microphones. There's no difference between them. And we are still awful at using it. We've had this platform for a year and we are still awful. Everybody is awful. In our assemblies at Manchester that we have every week, I have muted Lynn while he's been playing the guitar. And I've been muted while I was talking. And they said it was an accident. I mean, I hope it was. But we do it all the time. And someone asked me recently, how do you get your background? I mean, I'll let you into a secret. This is not a real bookcase. It would never be this neat if it was a real bookcase. This is a fake bookcase. I can't tell you now if you've not found out backgrounds, but I will tell you this. The day you discover filters will be the best night of your life. You'll spend all evening dressed as cavemen and chipmunks and fruit. It's an amazing experience. But we've still not got better. But what I've noticed about the mute thing, I noticed Tony mentioned in the beginning bit, we're always saying you're on mute. I've noticed that there's now a race to see who can tell the person that they're on mute the fastest. So people are like, Miss, Brian's on mute. Like that. And it's like, can I get a word out before you tell me I'm on mute? Because it does say on the front of the screen like that. But there are some people who don't notice that it says that. And they can talk for up to 5 minutes on mute and then it becomes awkward. Because then you have to sort of go, oh, how do I tell them? So what I do is what I do with Lynn. If he's on mute, I'll do his voice for him. I'll go, hello, I'm Lynn. I play the guitar and you can't hear me right now. So that's an exciting new way of doing it. And you can tell where something's entered the consciousness because things go into adverts. And I watched a Wix advert the other day, which was horrific because I don't watch TV and I couldn't work out how I'd seen this advert. It managed to penetrate into me, even though I don't watch TV. And it was about a woman who was so mortified by her house on Zoom that she got a new kitchen. That's the advert. Please don't do that. You don't need a new kitchen just because you're on Zoom. We've seen it all. I've seen wardrobes. I've noticed Lynn's got a towel on his wardrobe. It's fascinating to me. We've seen wardrobes. We've seen unmade beds. I used to do a course with a guy who had a horse on his bookshelf. Not a real one, obviously. But still, he called it horsey. And it's just fascinating. But people, they don't want you to see their lives. Okay? So kids wandering and they're pushing them out. And cats wandering and they're like throwing, oh, sorry, and they're getting rid of them all the time. Don't get rid of them. My husband brings me cups of tea when I'm doing Sunday assembly. And his arm has been in more Zoom meetings than Jackie Weaver has thrown out people from Paris Council. That's what it is. It comes in. It's life. Don't hide it. Let it all out. That's the most important thing, because this is what life is. We hide too much. It's fine. We'll live with it. So we didn't expect to be online every single week. We thought we'd do until summer. That's all we thought we'd do. But I could always tell when there was going to be a new lockdown restriction, because we'd just arranged a picnic as Sunday Assembly Manchester. That was the moment they put the restrictions in. Or I arranged a hair appointment. Hello, Mrs. Croombs, you need your roots doing. I'll pull the shutters down now, shall I? And that was always when the lockdown came. And I remember in August, I had one day of a holiday, and I went to a beach hut in Lytham St Anne's and ate fish and chips. And then occasionally I'd throw open the door and I'd shout, "Get away from me!" to seagulls and also to people. Because people at that time were very good at wearing masks. And I insisted that my children wear masks. And little kids would say, "You don't have to wear masks, you're too young." And they'd come to me, they'd go, "Mum, I don't have to wear a mask, I'm too young." And I'll say, "Get your mask on. We wear masks in this house." That's it. We wear it in the house and we wear it outside. But I don't know why people have got an issue with masks, because, they make you feel so much better having a mask on, because you don't have to wear a socially accepted facial expression. My mask normally is this. It's exhausting. So I don't wear it anymore. I can hide it. And I don't have to read other people's facial expressions and try and work out what they mean, because everybody looks shifty. That's just it. And chins, I'm sorry to say this to you, are ugly. Chins are ugly. We don't need to see them. Mysterious chins, they're very sexy, mysterious chins. That's why people grow beards. That's the fact of it. So we got to September and Manchester went into lockdown. Now, I don't know whether the rest of the country realised this, but we never came out of it. It was September. They called it different names. I went to the BBC and they said, "Don't call it a lockdown. It's not a lockdown. It's not a lot," because no one else was in a lockdown, but we were in a lockdown as far as I was concerned. So I'd get a book out and I'd go, "Oh, what's tier 3? Absolutely the same rules, whatever they called it. And for 1 week, we were allowed to go out and sit in the garden for 1 week with another person. 1 week, and then the rules changed again and we couldn't do it. And that's why our mayor, Andy Burnham, went all King of the North. Do you remember that? You know nothing, Bojo. Because we were constantly in lockdown and that was it. So there was no chance of getting Sunday Assembly back. We had to carry on meeting online. And the only thing I could do was to take up open water swimming. And when I tell people this, they say, "Oh, I wouldn't like that. I don't like having cold showers." And I felt like cold showers, it's not the same thing. So I signed up for this thing to go swimming. You wouldn't believe how many people are into this. There's thousands of people well into swimming in the open water. And I was woefully underprepared. I did have a wetsuit, but I had absolutely nothing else apart from a microfiber towel. And they were there with gloves and ponchos and all this stuff. And I filled in a form. They said, "How far can you swim in open water?" And I'd never done it before, so I said 25 metres. The course was 300 metres. Now you can imagine, I started this in November as a last-ditch attempt for mental health. And you can imagine the noise I made when I stepped into that water in November for the first time. Just imagine it. Like that. Just to help you, if it wasn't coming. And the wetsuit started to inflate when I got in. Just through air getting in it. And so I floated off like this. I couldn't swim. I was like this, floating off like this. And I managed to get halfway around the course, very slowly. And then I realised I was in the middle of a lake. And that freaked me out a little bit. So I saw a guy on a canoe that was doing this health and safety. And I had this vague feeling I was going to drown. So I thought to myself, should I tell him that I'm going to drown or not? But I didn't want to disturb him because he looked quite peaceful. So I looked at the shore and it seemed quite a long way away. So I just floated the rest of the course and went round like this. But then I saw some fishermen fishing and I thought, What they're fishing for. What's in this lake? Start to panic, freak me out. I hadn't thought there were things in it. It was really freaking me out. But the great thing was, it was the first time I worried about something that wasn't coronavirus. So that was quite relieving. And it was great for exercise, because I hated being within 2 meters of people. So it made me swim faster to get away from them. So we kept doing these weekly assemblies all the way until Christmas. And what had started as a small gathering of friends trying to support one another, I say small gathering, there's about 30 people there, it then turned into a little bit like, thanks in part to Tony, something a little bit like Saturday Night Palladium. There were just acts, and it was all very, because people needed a laugh, they needed to be entertained. So that's what we were doing. We got to Christmas, and I booked a Christmas meal to have out, and everything closed down. So I was scrambling around online to get some food, desperately trying to get that. And it's the first time in my life on Christmas Day that I've ever pulled a cracker through an open window. It's all right, Mum. It stopped you getting COVID. That's it. Pull it. I think you've won. Oh, the hat's flown off. That's what it was like. So we get to January and you lot all join us. Finally, we're all in the same boat. National lockdown again. No clapping outside. No delightful joy. Just misery the entire time. So I started watching documentaries on cults. On Netflix, I watched a lot of them. But then I had a terrible realisation that I might be in a cult. So I started to worry about it a little bit. And then 24 hours later, I had a terrible realisation that I might be running a cult. But I thought about it and I decided I probably am not, because it's more like stand-up. So that's what I decided. I'm sticking by it. So that was what life was like. And I tell you what, nothing shows you a dystopian future more than sticking 2 swabs up your kids' nostrils in a tent in the middle of Oldham. They were negative tests, by the way, but that is entering one of them tents. Oh, look, loads of tents have been set up. It's normal now, but it's not normal, is it? And now Manchester, that used to be famous for bands like, you know, the Stone Roses and the Smiths and Oasis, we're now famous for the Hamforth Parish Council, which will tell you they're in in Cheshire. And they are in Cheshire. But then everyone in Greater Manchester claimed they were in Cheshire to get out of the restrictions. So who knows if they are or not. And I may not be Jackie Weaver, but I definitely have the authority. So this is it. A year. We've managed to make it completely. Absolutely through this year. I don't know how we've done it. And today marks the very first Sunday Assembly Manchester online on Google Meets. And we have come a long, long way, baby, by not leaving the house. Seriously, send help. I need help. Tony, that's it. Finished.
Thank you very much, Louise. If you decide to set up a cult, I'm quite happy to be your lieutenant, and looking at the love coming in for you, it looks like a lot of people would want to join you as well. Lots of love coming in for Louise. Lots of love for wild swimming. Lots of love for Andy Burnham, particularly from Maria, who thinks he's got absolutely kind eyes. But Louise, can I just ask you? And Stephanie had exactly the same favourite line as me. I think I might be drowning, but I don't want to bother anyone, which Stephanie says sounds incredibly British. Louise, what's been the number one positive moment for you in the last year? There's been plenty of negatives, but if I had to put you on the spot to name one thing that's been very positive about the last year, what would you say?
Yeah, I think to get all serious, I didn't want to get serious. I wanted to have a laugh for 15 minutes. If I want to get really serious, it's, you talked about Peter Street, the autistic poet who's going to be speaking. I'm autistic too. I have muscular dystrophy. I can't tell you all about my life. It's too much. You won't believe me if I tell you all. But I find things hard. And by the way, someone just said they want to be my friend. You regret saying that. It's really hard sometimes to have a disability, and it's been really difficult in these last few months. But at the beginning, people were nice. You didn't have to. Sometimes I don't feel like going to Sunday Assembly on a Sunday because it's too far to travel. It's a lot of commuting. But people came to you. So I'm forever grateful to Sunday Assembly for being my new, not that they weren't my old friends, but I see them a lot more. I do things with them. Open swimming is because of Sunday Assembly. I meet someone from Sunday Assembly. I didn't mention that, and having the Live Better group and things like that, and having people just be so nice. I feel like I've been able to be myself, and I feel like I've been able to be at home. If I don't feel well, I don't have to travel out. I can be here in my house. So there's been so many good things that have come. And what I don't want is just to go back. Everyone's going, I can't wait to get back to normal. I really want to swear. I'm not going to swear because it's family friendly, but I want to say blank normal. Insert your own words. We didn't have a great life before lockdown. Don't kid yourself that this was utopia, because it wasn't. So, you know, this staying in your house is also not perfect. I'll be honest. Can we find a better media? Can we learn from this and realise, because there was a report, sorry to get serious, but there was a report on International Women's Day that said that women have gone back 100 years in many ways, because they're the first people small people furloughed, first people who've been fired, the stress of homeschooling. I mean, I know I've joked about it, but I have found it very stressful. Homeschooling, chores, all of those things. Can we please enter out of lockdown with a bit more equality in our lives, that, you know, men have been really kind and have noticed how much women have suffered, and can we, so that's the utopia. So the good thing about it has been friends, this great new world we've built. Please, can it continue beyond this year? That would be great.
In what ways do you think you've had to adapt, and have you discovered anything new about yourself because of the circumstance of the last year?
Yeah, I've been on a massive emotional roller coaster and a period of self-learning. And one of the things I didn't mention is I did a load of self-help. Yesterday I did, instead of practicing this speech, which maybe I should have done, I went to a conference thing about I can't think of the word, self-betterment. So whatever, and I've done loads of things like that online to help me become a better person. But I've been trying to learn about who I am. So I'll make this very quick, but basically I just thought I was a sort of weirdo, or a bad normal, and then I found out I had all these disabilities, and then I went, I'm disabled, everyone, and started telling everyone, and no one cared. But now I'm like going away from that and saying, well, who am I, and what is my strength, and being honest and saying, sometimes I find things overwhelming, sometimes I need a break, and that's okay. So that's what I've learned. I've learned that you don't have to apologise for yourself and be crying and hysterical all the time because you don't function in the way that people expect. You know, the whole thing about masks is like, autistic people, it's great. Why should I struggle to find out what your face is doing? Masks. Now welcome to my world. You know what I'm like. So it's made me accept myself more, Tony. I think that's what I'm saying.
Last question, Louise. Taking your point about not wanting to go rushing back to the way things were, but if things do start to unlock significantly on June the 12th, what have you most missed, and what are you most looking forward to doing when it becomes possible again?
Well, I'm a bit of a lazy mother. That's wrong. I shouldn't say that. I'm a bloody good mother. But I've had to cook every meal. I mean, I say that, make my husband do it. But anyway, do you know what I mean? There's a lot of washing up. There's a lot of stuff. I'm looking forward to relying on a very expensive takeout sandwich meal in some sort of restaurant. I rely a lot on servitors to feed my kids because they're very fussy. So days out, the kids have suffered hugely and I've not had the opportunity to go to the beach really, apart from that one time I was screaming at everyone to keep away from my kids for a day. Yeah. I'd like to be able to go out and have fun. I mean, I went out to Alton Towers for one day. That's one thing I did do. And people are going, oh, I'd never go to a theme park in a pandemic. And it's like, it was one of the safest places to be because it was outdoors. But you need that. I miss that. There's no holiday. There's been no holidays. There's been no fun times. And there's been no relying on a restaurant to feed your kids.
Yeah. Louise, there's loads of luck coming in for you. You've provoked lots of reactions about some of the things you've talked about there. No surprise at all. But I'd just like to say on behalf of not just the Manchester community, but looking at what everybody else is saying, thank you so much for your friendship and support over this last year, which has been quite a difficult time for everybody.
And we carry on. Sunday Assembly Manchester is going to keep going until we
Give it
don't.
Louise Croombs, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, so we're going to move out of Manchester now. There's a good idea. As we said, it's a joint assembly, so the other assemblies involved today have all got a contribution to make as well. So we're now going to have our first little recorded section, and it's a song from the London Assembly Band. So cue the music.
Imagine me and you, I do. I think about you day and night. It's only right to think about the girl you love and hold her tight. So happy together. should call you up, invest a dime, and you say you belong to me and ease my mind. Imagine how the world could be so very fine, so happy together. I can't see me with nobody but you for all my life. When you're with me, baby, the skies will be blue for all my life. Me and you and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together. I can't see me with nobody but you for all my life. When you're with me, baby, the skies will be blue for all my life. Me and you and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Me and you and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together, so happy together. How is the weather? So happy together. We're happy together. So happy together. We're happy together. So happy together. So happy together.
Thank you so much to our fantastic friends and colleagues there from London. What a wonderful anthem for this community. Happy together. What a wonderful anthem for Sunday Assembly. Whether it's together in the same room or whether it's on Zoom, other platforms are available. But thank you so much. That was absolutely fabulous. I was strutting my stuff there because I didn't manage to get to Stephanie's dance party last night because it clashed with our Saturday night assembly, which some of these people were at. You can tell they're all nursing a hangover, the people who were at that one. But we'd now like to move on to the Brighton Assembly. And there's a thing that we do in all the Sunday assemblies where people talk about their own experiences and, you know, things that are important to them and so on. And at Brighton, they call it Trying My Best. And trying his best for us today is the fabulous Gareth D.
Morning, everybody. Along with Tony, I've decided that I'm not going to shave until pestilence is driven from the land. And so, come on, guys, get the vaccinations working so I can finally have a shave. I've told the story of how I came to Sunday Assembly loads of times. Short version is I was walking across a field at a festival, it was raining, and there was a load of people singing in the debate tent, and I bumped into Sunday Assembly. That was in 2014, and I think if there were two words that I'll describe the 36-year-old me, community organiser wouldn't have been them. I'm relatively lazy, not brilliantly organised. Most of the time I win against my depression. Sometimes I don't. And I've got a really, for me, immensely frustrating habit of certain things disappearing into an almost infinite procrastination loop. I'm pretty certain those two things are linked. But 7 years later, I'm on the committee of Sunday Assembly. I kind of accidentally ended up running possibly the largest community arts event in Brighton. And I still don't think I'm necessarily anyone's idea of a community organiser, but it kind of happened. So I've going to share a couple of bits and pieces from that, and how, you know, this sort of series of happy accidents and stuff happened, and kind of a couple of lessons that I've learned. First one is, it's probably easier than you imagine. I first started coming to Sunday Assembly Brighton, and I was greeting people on the door. And, you know, I'm a significant extrovert, love people, so that was just best thing ever. Give me some attention, brilliant, I can do that. And then they kind of said that they were worried about not having enough volunteers, and this wonderful thing that I discovered, scratched an itch I never really knew existed, needed some help to make it continue. And, you know, ideally, I wouldn't have had to get involved because I'd just like to attend, but brilliant. But the kind of net benefit of doing something to make sure that it happened exceeded the net cost of me having to do it. And so I kind of started coming along and volunteering. The second is that we're British and we need an in. We don't just make friends. That would be far too difficult and emotionally complex. What we need to do is have something to hook conversations around, have the ability to have easy conversations around something that we've seen. And so things like Sunday Assembly, whereby you can always just ask what we thought of the speaker, works really effectively. And the third one, one of my friends who's an artist lost all of her income last year. All the galleries closed, everything stopped. I am in an enormously fortunate position that I stopped spending 250 quid a month on commuting. And so I decided that for the first period of lockdown, I was in a position where I was able to commission from some of my friends, some of my freelancing friends, work for them. So kind of I bought some photography from one friend, I bought some art from another, as a simple way of trying to mitigate their ill fortune with my fortune. And the picture that she painted of me asked the question, if not you, who? And I think that's probably the most important one that I've learned in volunteering, is that it needs somebody. And generally speaking, having somebody is almost always better than not having someone. And these things don't self-organize. It would be wonderful if they could, but the joy that we get. And Louise was talking about what we want the future to be, what we want, you know, Build Back Better's a word that was a phrase that's been used, bandied around by a couple of different politicians. And I think for me, it means something at the grassroots. I don't have the ability to change the world on a macro level, but I can try and make it slightly tidier. Our street WhatsApp group is celebrating its first anniversary yesterday. Okay, and that was me that set it up because, you know, I had access to a printer and also I live alone. Self-interestedly, I was really worried that if I had to self-isolate for 2 weeks, food was possibly going to be a problem. And so just put together some flyers, popped it through doors, and away we go. You know, and genuinely it's been awesome. The only argument we've had pretty much in the entire year is whether the Caspian Sea is a sea or a lake. And it's a lake, and that is a hill I am prepared to die on. And it's in a year of chaos and sadness and difficulty, finding out where my neighbour's cat John's got to has been an abiding, and yeah, it's just been one of those lovely things. We've walked people's dogs who have been sick, tradespeople have been sourced, a whole range of things, and the community's grown up, and now more than half the houses in the street are part of it. And I think there's someone who's, I think everybody on the street knows someone who's part of the group that can provide support. And, you know, that's gone from nothing to the whole street in a year. These things are the things that we need to take with us, and these are things that we need to do. It's a really strange thing having your hobby being community organisation and supporting a secular group. You know, if I supported Brighton, by the way, brilliant on the Seagulls yesterday. If I support, you know, and went around and told them my hobby is football, everyone gets that. But saying that my hobby is trying to make the world slightly better by creating communities, people look at you strangely. And I genuinely think they shouldn't. And I think if we are going to make a slightly better world, I don't think we can make a hugely better world, but I think we can make a slightly better world. That world is by everyone chipping in a bit more and trying to create that community. And Gareth and I'll be trying my best to make that happen. And I hope that you all can come with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. That was absolutely fantastic. You have provoked a little bit of debate about whether the Caspian is a sea or a loch or a lake. Can I just ask you, Gareth, similar to what I said to Louise, what's been the most positive thing that you found in the last year?
Yeah, I'd say the community WhatsApp group, and the fact that that's been replicated across the country. I think that, you know, and genuinely hope that we can learn the lesson from this, which is that community is useful. I think that social media is a massively double-edged sword. And I don't, you know, I think the change is that raw will affect society in ways that we're not really sure for decades to come. But I think there's certain areas, I think there's certain places where people have realised what can be good and how you can do it. My personal view is that hyper-local is best, and that humans can be good to each other in relatively small, easily manageable groups. And so being able to create those spaces for community, and create those relatively small groups that can support each other in meaningful ways is, for me, what I hope we can roll out to everybody, and that everybody who wants it, you know, should be able to find some kind of neighbourliness and those sorts of things. It's a society that's been shredded by our ability to move, and perhaps now we can put it together a little bit more by our ability to have things like social media.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Gareth. Give it up for Gareth and for our great friends at the Brighton Sunday Assembly. Thank you so much for your contribution, guys. I love what Gareth said there about, as a community organiser, the community is there, but it needs somebody to actually get up and do the organising. And lovely phrase about needing it in, and if not you, who else should do it? And we've got 132 people in this meeting. No doubt you're all from totally different backgrounds. We've got genders, we've got different nationalities, we've got different ethnicities, and yet everybody's come together on this Sunday morning because you want to be a part of this. And it's just wonderful that you know, we can bring the community together. It puts me in mind of Joe Cox, the late Joe Cox, who said to think about we've got more in common than that which separates us, and that couldn't be more evident than 131 people logging on today. Thank you so much, Gareth. That was absolutely fantastic. And we're now going to take the long journey from Brighton to Edinburgh in just a nanosecond. And because it's National Poetry Day, I think we should have some more poetry. So to introduce the poets, the Macca poets, apparently, I'd like to introduce, from Sunday Assembly Edinburgh, Marie Hernandez. Let me be the first one to say it, Marie. You're on mute.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I just did that for comedy value. There you go. So thanks, Tony. As Tony said, I'm Marie from Sunday Assembly Edinburgh, and I'm privileged to be here today to introduce the Sunday Assembly Edinburgh Mackers. So Macker is a Scots word for poet or bard, as we would say in Scotland, and we set up our own wee group of Mackers during lockdown. Our first Macker today is Edna, and she's going to read an original poem called Art 2020. We were looking for something to make us laugh. We were just wanting to just let us have a belly laugh, and Edna's wee poem was just the tonic. So hopefully it'll do the same for you. And after Edna, we're going to have Lara, who's going to read Thomas A. Clarke's In Praise of Walking. At our January Assembly, we had Karen Lawson from Collective Leadership Scotland share with us the concept of dialogue walks and her wisdom on how walking, either in person or even virtually, can help you with deep listening and reconnecting with our environment and nature. So I'll pass it on to the Mackers. Edna, are you there?
Hello? Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see me. Do I need to put a video on?
Yeah, it would be good if you did, Edna. There you go.
Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm going to read a poem called Visual Arts, and it's something that we can all do together. We possibly should do it not so much together, but it's about farting, which is something we all do. A fart could be art if contained in a jar. The title, of course, would be Smell from Afar. But if that fart were allowed to roam, the title would change to The Fart That Left Home. But if it was silent, would it still be a fart or a nothing? It all puzzles me. Conceptual perception, isn't a fart just a fart? Well, no, that's a theory, and a theory means art. Thank you.
Thanks, Edna. And I'm going to read from Thomas A. Clarke's prose poem in praise of walking from his collection, Distance and Proximity. Early one morning, any morning, we can set out with the least possible baggage and discover the world. That something exists outside ourselves and our preoccupations, so near, so readily available, is our greatest blessing. Walking is the human way of getting about. Always, everywhere, people have walked, veining the earth with paths visible and invisible, symmetrical and meandering. There are walks on which we tread in the footsteps of others, walks on which we strike out entirely for ourselves. A journey implies a destination, so many miles to be consumed, while a walk is its own measure, complete at every point along the way. There are things we will never see unless we walk to them. Walking is a mobile form of waiting. What I take with me, what I leave behind, are of less importance than what I discover along the way. To be completely lost is a good thing on a walk. The most distant places seem more accessible once one is on the road. Convictions, directions, opinions are of less importance than sensible shoes. In the course of a walk, we usually find out something about our companion, and this is true even when we travel alone. When I spend a day talking, I feel exhausted. When I spend it walking, I am pleasantly tired. The pace of a walk will determine the number and variety of things to be encountered, from the broad outlines of a mountain's range to a tit's nest among the lichen, the quality of attention that will be brought to bear upon them. A rock outcrop, a hedge, a fallen tree, anything that turns us out of our own way is an excellent thing on a walk. Wrong turnings, doubling back, pauses, digressions, all contribute to the dislocation of a persistent self-interest. Everything we meet is equally important or unimportant. The most lonely places are the most lovely. Walking is egalitarian and democratic. We do not become experts at walking, and one side of the road is as good as another. Walking is not so much romantic as reasonable. The line of a walk is articulate in itself, a kind of statement. Pools, walls, solitary trees are natural halting places. We lose the flavour of walking if it becomes too rare or too extraordinary, if it turns into an expedition. Rather, it should be quite ordinary, unexceptional, just what we do. Daily walking in all weathers in every season becomes a sort of ground or continuum upon which the least emphatic occurrences are registered clearly. A stick of ash or blackthorn through long use will adjust itself to the palm. Of the many ways through a landscape, We can choose on each occasion only one. The project of the walk will be to remain responsive, adequate to the consequences of the choice we have made, to confirm the chosen way rather than refuse the others. One continues on a long walk not by effort of will, but through fidelity. Storm clouds, rain, hail. When we have survived these, we seem to have taken on some of the solidity of rocks and trees. A day from dawn to dusk is the natural span of a walk. A dull walk is not without value. To walk for hours on a clear night is the largest experience we can have. For the right understanding of a landscape, information must come from intelligence from all the senses. Looking, singing, resting, breathing are all complementary to walking. Climbing uphill, the horizon grows wider. Descending, the hills gather round. We can take a walk which is sampling of different airs. The invigorating air of the heights, the filtered air of a pine forest, the rich air of cloud earth. We can walk between two places, and in doing so, establish a link between them, bring them into a warmth of contact, like introducing two friends. There are walks on which I lose myself, walks which return me to myself again. Is there anything that is better than to be out walking in the clear air? Thank you.
Thank you so much there. Thank you. I hope you manage to go walking in the clear air again very soon, Lara. Thank you to Lara and to Edna for the poetry. And thank you to Maria for bringing them to us. I think it's absolutely fantastic that you guys are bonding and creating a community around poetry. It made me think of the Robin Williams film, The Dead Poets Society. And I'm actually an English teacher by profession, which is one of the main reasons why I approve. And when I was doing teacher training, one of my fellow students said that he imagined my lessons being like the Dead Poets Society. They're nothing like it, but God bless him for actually thinking that. So, yeah, thank you very much to our friends from the Edinburgh Assembly there. And yeah, Edna's just giving me the excuse to do this one. I was really pleased yesterday because a really beautiful girl referred to me as charming. Well, she mumbled it under her breath when I farted in the lift, but that still counts. You can blame Edna for that one. We're going to have the 2 minutes reflection in a moment, but we can't go into the 2 minutes reflection off the back of that, obviously. So I'd just like to say, we've had some absolutely fantastic guests. You saw a big roll call on the PowerPoint at the start, and sometimes they've been very big names. Henry Normal, who works with Steve Coogan. We've had Davy Johns, who was the star of the film I, Daniel Blake. Robin Ince and Justin Morehouse, very successful comedians. But often, my favourite assemblies have been people who've never spoken in public before and have just taken that opportunity and have been absolutely fascinating. So it's been absolutely wonderful. And it made me think of a quote by the American poet Maya Angelou, when she once said, you'll forget what people said, you'll forget what people did, but you'll never forget how people made you feel. So as we go into the 2 minutes reflection, I would like you all to think about how people make you feel, how being part of a community like this makes you feel, and how being friends and neighbours and your family members, the people that you love, how they make you feel. So let's have 2 minutes reflection. Thank you very much, everybody. So just reflecting on some of the things that we've heard today, I think a lot of it is contained in the song that we heard, "Happy Together," because we are a community, we are social beings, and the things that Gareth said about somebody stepping forward to bring that community together. Sarah Joy talked about women's health, and Louise alluded to mental health and so on. And we need each other, don't we? And never more so than this year. And it's wonderful that we've had ways of keeping in touch when we were all in lockdown. And God bless the platforms and the different ways we've been able to communicate with each other. But looking what everybody's put in the chat box, people have found a way through this. Sunday Assembly going weekly online in Manchester was one of the ways that people have found a way through it. But all the projects, all the community projects and the writing and the poetry and the growing flowers and going on walks, it's all part of getting through this, isn't it? And hopefully, regardless of what's happening in Europe at the moment, we are heading back to this new normal that everybody keeps on referring to. And being part of a community, being a group, the friendships that we've established, the bonds we've established is going to be more important than ever going forward. And that's my little summing up, but I'm now going to switch back to Lynn Richardson, who you heard singing earlier, because Lynn would like to say a few words to sum up his experiences of the lockdown and so on. Over to you, Lynn.
Oh, hello again. Yeah, I'll try to be very quick, but I was quite inspired by what Gareth was saying, and I wanted to speak very quickly. So the other week at Sunday Assembly Manchester, we were very reasonably debating the merits of the songs Wonderful World by Sam Cooke versus What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong, different songs. And I came down on the side of What a Wonderful World. And one of the reasons for that is that in that song, there is an incredible line where Louis Armstrong says, "I see friends shaking hands, saying, 'How do you do?' They're really saying, 'I love you.'" And it's always struck with me because it's true. When we perform acts like that, we are expressing a kind of love for each other. And it's why Sunday Assembly is so wonderful, because every time we volunteer, every time we turn up and show our faces to each other when we don't have to, we are showing our love for one another. Almost every study of happiness finds that the most important factor in happiness is not wealth or possessions, but our relationships, whether we are loved. So when we make someone feel loved, we change their whole world. And that's the power of Sunday Assembly. We change the world for everyone we reach. Sometimes 4 people turn up, but if we make those 4 people feel just that little more loved, then it's always worth it. I don't think a lot about my death, I promise. But one thing I've realized is that when I am dying and I look back on my life and I ask myself what I did that I regret the least, what I did that achieved the most for the world, I know that it will be Sunday Assembly, which is why I hope that more of you and your friends will get involved and keep involved with the movement. I know that so many of you individually, I know that you all want to make the world better. So I want to say the best way that you can achieve all those things is through Sunday Assembly. If you want to fight climate change, get people to come to Sunday Assembly where we engage with those issues. If you want to fight misinformation and change the government, get people to come here and learn about the issues in their communities. All those people who hate immigrants, get them to come to Sunday Assembly and meet them. Like so many things, Sunday Assembly in the UK is going to be basically rebuilt from scratch in the next few months. This is an incredible moment. This is our chance. The country needs a social fabric, and who better to make it happen than us? People out there are scratching at the walls just to step out into the sun and see each other again. And we can be the ones to make it happen. We are on the crest of a wave that is about to break. In a month or 2, restrictions will allow us to meet up for picnics in the park. Let's be there up and down the country. Let's meet new people, tell them what we're about and what it can be. And don't just ask them to come to an assembly, ask them to volunteer and make it theirs. Give them a chance to change the world. So anyway, thank you for listening to the speech that I wrote after a couple of glasses of port. And thank you all for coming. So now it's time for our last and a very special song. This is the incredible people of Sunday Assembly Sheffield with Together in Electric Dreams.
Time to go away. Sometimes it's hard to recognize love comes as a surprise, and it's too late, it's just too late to stay, too late to stay. We'll always be together, however far it seems. We'll always be together, together in electric dreams. Because the friendship that you gave has taught me to be brave. No matter where I go, I'll never find a better prize. And though you're miles and miles away, I see you every day. I don't have to try, I just close my eyes. I close my eyes. We'll always be together, however far it seems. We'll always be together, together in electric dreams. We'll always be together, however far it seems. We'll always be together, together in electric dreams. We'll always be together, however far it seems. We'll always be together, together in electric dreams. We'll always be together, however far it seems. We'll always be together, together in electric dreams.
Thank you so much. Fantastic song there from Raj Chowdhury from Sheffield, Sunday Assembly Sheffield. And I'd just like to add, everybody's putting absolutely wonderful comments about Lynn in the chat box. Everybody's saying, here, here. Well said, Lynn. Lots of people have got a tear in their eye from what you said. And what I love, and this probably says more than anything about Sunday Assembly, there was two messages that came up consecutively while Lynn was talking. One saying, thank you for reaching out because it's been very important to my mental health that I've been able to find this connection through Sunday Assembly. And the next message said, Lynn's towel looks like a long carrot crisp. So if everyone wanted to prove that we're catering for lots of different tastes and lots of different personalities, then that was it. Thank you so much for coming along, and please show your appreciation one more time for the Sunday Assembly Manchester people, Mr. Lynn Richardson, Sarah Joy Taylor, and the fabulous Louise Croombs. And thank you so much for the contributions that we've had from Sunday Assembly London with our band, from Gareth in Sunday Assembly Brighton, from Maria and her poets in Sunday Assembly Edinburgh, and for Raj for that stirring song with the perfect title, Together in Electric Dreams, because that's exactly where we've been today.